There is a cruel truth about glory. It makes you believe you are immortal. For a fleeting moment, under the brightest lights and in front of millions, you feel untouchable. Every pass lands perfectly, every decision feels destined, and every victory seems like proof that time itself bends in your favor. You stop questioning, stop doubting, because why would you? When you stand at the very top, the world doesn't just admire you, it convinces you that you belong there forever. But glory is a beautiful liar. It whispers promises it can never keep. It hides the cracks beneath the surface, the fatigue, the arrogance, the tiny lapses that slowly begin to grow. And before you even realize it, the same stage that once crowned you starts to expose you. The cheers don't disappear overnight, but they begin to fade, replaced by silence, and then by disbelief. Because the truth is, no one stays immortal. Not in football, not in life. And sometimes, it only takes one game, one moment, for the illusion to shatter completely. Before June 13, 2014, the Spain national team was not just another football team. We are talking about a group that redefined how the world understood the game itself. For 6 relentless years, from the green fields of Vienna to the cold nights in Johannesburg and the glowing lights of Kiev, La Roja stood as an empire that simply could not be overthrown. 2 European championships, 1 World Cup. They did not just win. They imprisoned their opponents inside endless mazes of short passes. Tiki-taka was not just a tactic, it was a religion, and men like Iker Casillas, Xavi, Iniesta, and Sergio Ramos were its gods. They seemed untouchable, almost divine, controlling games with subtle movements, delicate touches, and an almost arrogant sense of calm. But football, like life, always saves its harshest punishment for those who dare to believe they have conquered time itself. La Roja arrived in Brazil like a king, preparing to extend his reign. Yet beneath the golden surface of 3 consecutive major titles, cracks had already begun to form. Silent, invisible, like an illness growing from within. The golden generation, those born between 1984 and 1986, had grown weary after seasons of relentless battles in La Liga and the Champions League. Vicente del Bosque, the calm and almost fatherly figure on the bench, remained too loyal to his old guard. He chose safety over renewal, memories over reality, trust over truth. And the truth was simple, yet brutal. His gods were getting tired. Facing them, at the Arena Fonte Nova in Salvador, was a Netherlands national team burning with something far more dangerous than ambition: revenge. 4 years earlier, in Johannesburg, they had fallen at the gates of heaven, undone by Andres Iniesta's dagger in the 116th minute. Arjen Robben had walked off that pitch in tears, haunted by a one-on-one miss against Casillas that would follow him into every quiet moment of his life for 1,433 days. The Dutch did not come to Salvador to play a group stage match. They came to settle a score. They came to execute a memory that had never stopped hurting. The match began exactly as expected. Spain controlled the ball. They passed, they dictated the rhythm. It felt like watching a familiar script unfold, one the world had seen too many times before. And when Xabi Alonso calmly converted a penalty in the 27th minute, the feeling was almost inevitable. Here we go again. But that was the illusion, because right before half-time, something cracked. David Silva had a golden chance to make it 2-0, a delicate chip that could have buried the game entirely. But Jasper Cillessen stayed alert, and in football, sometimes one missed moment changes everything. Minute 44. A long, almost careless-looking pass from Daley Blind. The ball travelled through the humid Brazilian air, cutting across the sky, landing perfectly into the path of Robin van Persie. And then, something impossible happened. Van Persie did not control the ball. He flew, his body stretched horizontally, suspended in the air like a man defying gravity itself. And with a perfectly timed header, he sent the ball looping over Casillas into the net. It was not just a goal, it was a statement. It was art. It was violence disguised as beauty. Casillas stood frozen, eyes wide, watching the ball sail past him. In that moment, a god experienced helplessness for the first time in years. 1-1, but more importantly, the crown had cracked. The second half did not begin like a football match. It began like a storm. Rain started to fall over Salvador, heavy and relentless, as if the sky itself had decided to wash away everything Spain once stood for. Minute 53. Arjen Robben received the ball. One touch, one turn. Gerard Piqué was gone. A sprint, a finish, 2-1. And just like that, Spain disappeared. They no longer controlled the game. They no longer controlled themselves. The passes became slower. The movements became heavier. The confidence vanished. What remained was panic. Minute 64. Stefan de Vries, 3-1. Spain argued, they protested, they searched for excuses, for fouls, for anything that could explain what was happening. But there was nothing to explain. This was not bad luck. This was collapse. And then came the moment that truly broke everything. Minute 72. A simple back pass. Casillas, the symbol of stability, miscontrolled it. One touch too heavy, 1 second too slow. Van Persie was there. A predator, a shadow, a punishment. 4-1. Casillas fell to his knees, his gloves covered in mud, his head lowered. The image was painful, almost unbearable. The saint had fallen, and with him, the empire. But the nightmare was not over. Minute 80. Arjen Robben again. He picked up the ball near midfield, and then he ran. Sergio Ramos chased him desperately, but something felt off. It was not just a race of speed, it was a race of time. Ramos ran like a man carrying the weight of 6 years of dominance, while Robben ran like a man fueled by years of pain. The difference was brutal. Ramos looked lost. This wasn't the same man who, just a month ago, rose above everyone in Lisbon and headed Real Madrid back from the brink of death at Champions League final. Small. Almost ridiculous. A warrior turned into a spectator. Inside the box, Robben slowed down. He didn't shoot, not yet. He wanted more. He twisted, he turned, he dragged Casillas to the ground, reducing him to a helpless figure crawling in the mud. Then, one more touch, one more humiliation, and finally, the finish. 5-1. That moment from Robben wasn't just a goal, it was redemption. 4 years after being denied by Iker Casillas in South Africa, he finally settled the score, delivering a revenge as sweet as it was long overdue. This moment, a public execution of a fallen king. Robben celebrated like a man who had waited his entire life for this moment. Ramos lay on the ground, breathless, staring into nothing. It wasn't just defeat, it was realization. This was the end. When the final whistle blew, the scoreboard told a story that no one could have imagined. Spain won to 5, Netherlands. The heaviest opening defeat ever suffered by a defending champion in World Cup history. But the number alone did not capture the truth. Spain did not just lose, they were exposed. Tiki-taka, the philosophy that had dominated the world, was dismantled, piece by piece, by speed, by directness, by raw intent. Louis van Gaal did not try to outplay Spain. He chose to destroy them, and his team executed that plan with ruthless precision. Spain had reached the end of their journey, not because they lacked talent, but because they had nothing new left to give. They had perfected their system, to the point where it could no longer evolve. And in football, standing still is the fastest way to fall. Meanwhile, the Netherlands did not just win. They rose. They turned pain into power. They turned memory into fuel. They took the ghosts of 2010 and buried them in the most brutal way possible. From the peak of world domination to the depths of humiliation. All in 90 minutes. That is how cruel football can be, because it gives you everything and then takes it away without warning. And maybe that is why this story still lives on, not because of the scoreline, but because of what it represents. The fall of gods, the end of an empire, and the moment the world realized nothing lasts forever.